Hey guys, welcome to Wait Until the Unfiltered Village. I'm your host, Pam.
And I am your co-host, Sarah. So today we're going to be going over Pam's origin story into becoming a mom. So we're going to talk all things from the start to the big day.
So the big day. Okay, cool. Cool. Not a loaded story at all. So for starters, when my husband and I decided we were gonna start trying, I got off the pill and I proceeded to not get my period for months.
Did you not have your period while you were on the pill?
I got my period when I was on the pill.
Okay.
But I mean, I've read enough times that like when you're on the pill, that's not really your period. So whatever. But I did get it when I was on the pill, and then I got it for 2 months after I got off it, and then I stopped getting it. So I went to the doctor, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not getting my period." I'm like, "We want to start trying to have a baby, but I'm not getting my period." And my doctor immediately was like, "Well, we could put you on metformin so that it'll help you get pregnant."
Wow, that is an escalation.
Yeah, and I was like,
Okay. Now, what kind of doctor was this?
"This was my primary."
Okay. Okay.
Um, And she had my blood work tested, and she was like, well, your thyroid's slightly elevated. I think it was like the range is supposed to be up until like 4, and I was at like a 4.9. She's like, it's slightly elevated, but I think you should go to an endocrinologist. So the one that she recommended had like a 2-month
Oh,
wait.
yeah. Like when you're trying to conceive, 2 months feels like an eternity.
Well, I mean, at that point, it had been like 4 or 5 months without a period. So
And were you trying even though you didn't have a period?
we weren't being precautious about it at all. So we were just like, Godspeed. So I waited the 2 months. Okay. I did wait the 2 months to go to the endocrinologist, and I called, I think the first month I didn't, but the second month I called like weekly to see if there were like any cancellations, see if I could get in for an appointment. That didn't work. So I had to wait until the day of the appointment. So I finally go to this appointment. Now at that point, it had been 7 months.
Oh my gosh.
Without getting a period. And I wasn't pregnant up until that point, that I know of. And so she was like, okay, well, we'll run labs. And I think she ordered like 35 panels or something like that.
Goodness.
Yeah, it was like 9 tubes of blood.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So that's just the beginning of that too.
Yeah, well, that's its own story. So yeah, so then I went and I got my blood work done on my birthday.
Ugh.
And probably like, why would you go on your birthday? Well, I was working from home, and my actual birthday was the day that I was working from home that week. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna run over and
Get my blood drained.
yeah, just the first thing in the morning as a birthday present. And then 24 hours later, my chart uploads like your test or whatever. And I think it's like the HC1 or whatever.
ACG.
Yeah, that one. The pregnancy hormone. It came back and I was like, I think it was 38. And I was like, huh. So my immediate thing was not like, oh, am I pregnant? My immediate thing was,
Something's wrong.
oh my God, do I have cancer? Oh my goodness. So I start Googling like, can something be wrong if this is elevated? And like my first Google search was like, if this is anything but a 0, you're pregnant. And I was like, oh shit. So I was pregnant. And so I went back for my follow-up to the doctor. I took a pregnancy test and like that whole thing. And then I was like in shock. So I went back to the doctor, and she was like, okay, well, your thyroid's slightly elevated. I think you should get on thyroid medication. And she was getting ready to send me home. Like, she was like, okay. And I was like, but did you see that it says that I'm pregnant? And she was like, huh?
Oh my gosh.
And she went and looked, and she like I have this very vivid like image in my mind of her going to the computer and like scrolling at her mouse and scrolling through my labs and then being like, huh. And then she turned her head at me. She put her glasses down and was like, well, don't get too happy.
Oh.
And I will not disclose her name on this podcast because I'm sure there's people in New Jersey who potentially have been to her as an endocrinologist. But that was the last time that she saw me, the second and last time she saw me, because I cried at my way home because I was like, oh my God, how could she possibly say that to me? But also, I'm like, obviously, this is not my doctor. Like, for you to almost basically have missed that I was pregnant on my blood work that you ordered and then tell me, like, yeah, go home and take your thyroid medication and not, like, she didn't guide me in any direction of that.
I mean, because that could have been potentially harmful to your pregnancy.
Right. So my thyroid level was potentially harmful to the pregnancy also, but you take the medication so that it keeps you from a point of like not miscarrying. So of course I was on edge for that because I also found out I was like 4 weeks pregnant. Like it was like fresh. Yeah. It was like brand spanking new. So I went to like a 6-week appointment and then an 8-week appointment. Most people only go to the 8-week appointment because they don't know up until they're like 6 or 7 weeks anyway.
Right.
And so my gynecologist at the time was like, I'm not an OB anymore, so you have to find an OB.
Wow.
So now I'm seeing a whole new team of doctors, which I ended up having a really great experience with the doctors that I did go to. My pregnancy was relatively uneventful. I did make the choice to buy a house in the middle of my pregnancy.
It was a choice.
Well, that was a
Very good choice. Not just a house, but a house out of state.
a house out of state.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were already looking for a house when I got pregnant. That just kind of escalated the thing, and I got outbid like 3 or 4 times, and we were like, okay, well, let's look in another state. And I kid you not, like 3.5 weeks in, we found a house, and like fast forward, that was that. But then I was moving
While pregnant.
So I was like packing a 1-bedroom apartment and a garage to get ready to move across state lines. My mom was also really sick at the time. So somewhere around 20 weeks or so, I went from like going to hear the heartbeat for the first time, because I didn't hear the heartbeat until like week 18, 19.
What?
I know that's crazy. Most people hear it at like 12 or 13. Not me. My doctor just didn't do it.
What? Did you ask?
I did. And they were like, oh yeah, we do that around, I think she said like 18 weeks. And I was like,
Oh, no. I would have been like, no, sweetie. You're going to get that Doppler on my belly right now, sweetheart.
so I almost bought it on Amazon.
Oh, my God.
I didn't, but I almost, no.
Oh, my goodness.
But then time just started happening really fast. So yeah. But I didn't hear the heartbeat until, it was like 18, 19 weeks.
Wow.
In that same roundabout, like I said, my mom was sick, and then we found the house and we were closing, and like, so.
And you're working full time.
I was working full time.
You were back in the office at this point, right?
I was in the office at that point. I was working. Yeah, that's a good point. I was working 16 hours some days because I worked for a utility company, and I was taking unpaid FMLA to go to my doctor's appointments because my supervisor wouldn't let me go an hour early, even though I offered to like make up the time at another point during the week, but they wouldn't let me do that. So I had to very funly take an hour of unpaid FMLA time so that I could go to the doctor just for a regular checkup because I was pregnant. And then my pregnancy was relatively uneventful otherwise, even though I was like moving and nursing my mom back to health and whatever else was happening. And then around week 34 and a half weeks, I went for my checkup, and they were like, okay, we're going to start seeing you weekly or whatever that standpoint is at that point. And he was like, your blood pressure's a little bit high. I want you to go to maternal fetal medicine. And so I did. And they had me like, I had to collect my pee in a water jug in like a gallon. So it was like over the course of 24 hours.
Really? Oh, wow.
They had me pee, and I had to bring it back. So it was like over the course of the weekend. So they gave it to me on Thursday. They were like, start Friday or Saturday. I think I chose Saturday because I was home.
Yeah.
And then I filled it, and then Monday I brought it to them. They had it tested. I don't even remember what the test was for. But when I went back to maternal fetal medicine, he was like, yeah, so you have a low case of gestational high blood pressure. This is like 34 and a half weeks in. They're like, so we need to see you twice a week until it's safe for you to deliver.
Wow.
So I didn't feel any different, really, other than in the middle of the night, I did feel like my arm tingles. Like it was almost like when your foot falls asleep.
Yeah.
But it was in my arm, and there was like nothing I could do about it. But that was like the only real symptom. So I went twice a week to maternal fetal medicine, and then I actually took off. That's when I put in for, I forgot what that leave is, but I took like the 4 weeks that you get before you go on maternity leave.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't be stressed out. Like I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work and like all those things. Like that's obviously not doing me any good. So yeah, I did that for the last 2.5 weeks of my pregnancy. And then like 3 days before I was officially 37 weeks, my OB was like, yeah, so we should have you induced on Thursday. You should go to the hospital. I'm going to have them, get up your admission paperwork, and you're going to go to the hospital. So I'm sure we can do an episode on this later about like the hospital bag and like whatever craziness. Because I packed the hospital bag when like I had boxes in my living room. Like I don't even know. I don't think I used like 75% of what was in my hospital bag because I was just so like wrecked.
Yeah.
But then I went to the hospital.
Yeah, but you were also in that week moving to your house.
Oh yeah. So the Saturday before. So my son was technically born. Oh, oops. My son was technically born. He was born May 10th. That was a Friday. I don't know what day that is. Sure. Yeah, Friday. So yeah, I think it was like Friday or Saturday, something like that. I went into the hospital Friday. I went into the hospital on a Thursday.
Yes, it was a Friday.
So Friday? No, it was Saturday. It was into Saturday. It was just after midnight.
Okay.
But yeah, so I went into the hospital Thursday, and then for the first 24 hours, they gave you like something to soften your cervix. I don't remember the exact terminology, so I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you're like, what the heck is it? But it's a tampon that they put inside of you to soften your cervix. And that is in hopes that it'll get you ready for labor. And then the next step was they broke my water. And they started giving me Pitocin. I don't have any other comparison to do it with, but Pitocin was a bitch.
Yeah.
Because it made my blood pressure go up, and it made the baby's blood pressure go up. So the baby kept like just jumping off the monitor because he was just like, nope, too much. So I had very severe bruising from my blood pressure cup because of like, yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm starting to get dilated, so we're going through that. And the doctor's like, you're this many centimeters, you're that many centimeters. And I had told myself, I'm like, I want to get to 5 centimeters. Once I get to 5 centimeters, I'll take the epidural. Like, we'll go through that route. And I did. So my nurse kept telling me, which shout out to the hospital in Paramus, New Jersey, I can't remember all their names right this second, but oh my gosh, like the best people I've ever dealt with in the medical field. That's wonderful. So my nurse was like, hey, I leave at 7. It's 4:30 right now. It's going to take him about an hour to come up here. If you want the epidural, you need to tell me with good time so that I can be the nurse that's here for you, whatever. So I was like, at that point, I think I was like 5.5 centimeters dilated. I was like, yeah, you know what? Pitocin's whooping my ass. Like, we should do it. So they came up. The guy gave me my epidural. I don't remember his name, but I remember him being like, did you feel that? And I was like, no. And he was like, you have a really strong back. And I was like, thanks. So yeah, so he gave me the epidural, and about 4.5 hours of like my blood pressure spiking, the baby beeping and all of that going in rotation. I was high as hell.
Yeah?
I was high.
Did they give you something other than an epidural?
Nope.
What?
But I think somewhere between like my body producing oxycontin because I was in pain, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and the epidural, I was just like, few things, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the doctors, like, I think like 4 doctors and 3 nurses came into my room and they were like, okay, you're in blood pressure cuff, okay. And like, I think most people would have panicked.
So they all came into the room at the same time?
Yeah, they all came in the room and they're like beeping. Oh yeah, because things are beeping, things are this, things are that. And at this point, it's like 11:30 at night. Now I've been in the hospital now for like
Over a day.
yeah, I think at that point it was almost like 36 hours.
Yeah.
They all came in the hospital. They all come in the room, blah, blah, blah. And then this guy came in and he was like, okay, well, I'm going to be your anesthesiologist. Like, he started talking to me about like C-section prep. And I was like, okay, they didn't say C-section yet. Like, I was fully aware at that point. I was like, they didn't say C-section yet, like, whatever. And then my nurse, that was my nurse at that point, she came in and she's like, okay, we have to take you to the ER now. Like, the baby he got off the monitor too many times. And they were like, at this point, we feel it's unsafe. We need to go get him. I got a little emotional think about that because I didn't feel scared. I was actually like, I knew coming in that having gestational high blood pressure could put me in preeclampsia and something could happen to me and baby.
Mm.
So I wasn't even like scared about going to get a C-section. I was just like, I need to hear the baby.
Yeah.
So they took me into the OR and I heard them make Mike stay back. And I was like, oh man, he's freaking out. I know he's freaking out because they just brought me into this cold room. They made him stay out, which they do that. If you don't know, they do that because they have to prep you. So they don't want your partner to see you getting prepped. You know, they split, they put a screen, they do all these things. They don't want them to be part of that process. So he later told me that he was freaking the hell out. And he was like, somebody let me in. Like, I need to see something. So then he came in and it was like, it felt like it was probably 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it was closer to like 10. But I told him to put his hand on my head and because I wanted to know he was there because I couldn't keep my eyes open because at that point the anesthesia and the epidural, I was like confused. And then I heard the baby cry. And then I think I fell asleep for like 45 minutes.
Wow.
Because like, as soon as I heard him cry, I was like,
Oh, I'm done.
I'm done. The baby, my saying, her baby's here. So that's like my actual birth story. And then I was in the hospital for an additional like 3 days because my blood pressure was still high. They didn't want to send me home. They give you magnesium the first 24 hours and that's some experience. And then I found out that my son's umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck and that's why he hopped off the monitor.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they didn't tell me that till like the second or third day, but yeah.
Wow.
Because they were like, we don't want you to like Veeler, and since he came out and there was nothing wrong with him or none of that. So yeah, that was my first pregnancy / birth story. Myself, thinking about it now, I'm like, I hope I didn't scare anyone. I hope no one's.
I hear a lot of people say you shouldn't share your birth stories to people who are expecting, especially their first. But I was the opposite. I wanted to know everybody's birth story when I was pregnant because I wanted to learn about all of the possible things that could happen or all of the, everything that went into holding your baby in your arms for the first time. Like it's different for everybody. Everyone says that every baby is different, but every pregnancy is different. Every birth is different,
which is crazy, but
yeah. And it's so interesting because so many women go through it and no woman goes through the same experience.
They don't go through it twice. They don't go through the same experience.
I even have had some friends who have multiple children and they said that their whole experience, pregnancy, trying to conceive, birth, the whole thing is different from child to child.
Wow.
Yeah. My mother actually said the birth that she had with me versus my brother was insanely different.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And we were born 16 months apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So her body wouldn't, you would think her body would like remember the exact things from before. So
Yeah, she said it was totally different.
so interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't avoid it. I didn't avoid the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I did avoid trauma stories because I was like, okay, well, I want to internalize that. Like that was my thought process. But I actually ran into a mom on TikTok nonetheless. I ran to a mom, I think it's like a husband and wife duo, Demi and Tom. And she was pregnant with her second kid, I think. Or maybe her second kid. I don't know. She was telling the first story of her first birth. And it was exactly like she had a hard time conceiving. So they did IVF for their first child. And she had gestational high blood pressure. She was also a woman of color. And that's to be very common in your first pregnancy for women of color is to have gestational high blood pressure and to have a C-section. So I don't remember what week I was pregnant, but it was closer to around the time where like they told me I had gestational high blood pressure. And she just talked about like how scared she was, the emergency C-section, like all of those things. And I'm glad that I saw that when I did because I literally kid you not, I think that's why I felt so like, not that I wasn't stressed because of course I was like, oh my God, I want to hear my baby cry. But I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is standard procedure. Like, right. If I'm going to be anywhere, if my blood pressure is going to spike, I'd rather be at the hospital. Totally. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad this is what's happening. So, yeah, I think if you want to hear the birth stories, you should. You should get them from whoever you want to listen to them, even if it's strangers, because it does give you a different, like,
it gives you perspective, but at least for me personally, it empowered me to hear so many different stories because it made me feel like I can do it.
Yeah,
I can do it, especially as a first-time mom, you really don't know what to expect from the birth experience, I think. And I just heard so many different iterations of how people's babies came earthside. And I was just like, wow, the woman's body is just so magical and beautiful. And, modern medicine is,
God bless.
yes, yes, because I just can't imagine. I can't imagine, I don't know, not having those resources available to me and the stories and the perspectives. I'm very type A. And you know this about me. I need to have some sort of idea of what to expect. Even if it's not what happens, I need to know the what ifs.
I need to know that I had.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like putting in like an address and GPS. I'm the person that will go scroll a little bit and see like, okay, well, after I make these 7 lefts, like, what am I looking for?
Exactly.
What's over there?
Exactly.
And I think that really helps too because, again, like I said, because I knew from a gestational high blood pressure point that the likelihood of me having a C-section was so much higher. When it went to be, when they were like, hey, we need to take you to the OR, I didn't feel, I'm grateful I didn't because I know a lot of moms do, but I didn't feel like a failure. I didn't feel like my body failed me. I didn't feel any of those things. I was just like, because I was so hesitant. I don't know if I said that. I was very hesitant to get induced. I was very like, no, I want my body to do what it's going to do. I don't want to get induced. And I was upset about it because it was the weekend of Mother's Day that we had. I was like, can I just come Monday? Like, does it have to be the weekend of Mother's Day? Like, and I remember the doctor being like, well, what's your hesitancy? Like, and I was like, well, it's Mother's Day weekend. And like, I'm trying to like not get birth on Mother's Day. Like, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter. His first birthday was on Mother's Day. So whatever. But
what a gift.
Yeah.
Beautiful first.
Yeah. That was cool. I was in the hospital with my baby. That was pretty dope. But I didn't want to go through that measure because I had also heard not positive things about people who got induced and Pitocin and all those things.
Right, like Pitocin always leads to other interventions, which always will lead to C-section, is what I was just fed through all the the social media and then
even some people, I was gonna say even some people's experiences.
Right. It's Pitocin leads to every other intervention. Like, if you get Pitocin, at least for me, that's how it was fed to me. It's like, if you get Pitocin, then you will get a C-section. And I mean, I did not want a C-section, but
I don't think any mom does.
Yeah.
I don't think any mom goes in there and they're like, especially not first time mom. I don't think anyone goes in there and they're like, yeah, cut me open. I mean, I don't think we have literally opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to the story, but I think either side is horrible. It's hard. They're still tearing. Your body is still splitting in two.
Let's just agree that there is no easy way to give birth.
C-section, yeah, there is.
Or not.
Yeah, there is. Be a man.
But that's why they're not doing it.
Well, that's another point. But yeah, no, I was fed the Pitocin thing.
Yeah.
And even still now, I wish that I could relive it because I know that the Pitocin is what spiked like my contractions and like that pain, and it's like my blood pressure and like so there was a lot of that. I wouldn't change it because ultimately my son's umbilical cord is wrapped around his neck. So like if I had waited, who knows? Who knows what that story would have looked like? I don't have to know because he was born healthy and he is healthy, but I almost did not go to the hospital. I was like, we should wait. I should wait. I mean, they're monitoring me now anyway for high blood pressure. Like I have a cuff at home and
yeah, but at that point, the problem wasn't the blood pressure, it was the cord. And
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Right.
So even being in the hospital, they were like, what are you doing? They kept coming in and be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm laying here. They're like, well, did you move? I'm like, not enough for my blood pressure to be sounding an alarm. Like, but yeah, no, that's also very true. So thank God I was in the hospital because who knows?
Yeah. So, oh my goodness, you're oh gosh, every woman
we are magical.
Truly.
Women are magical. I do have to say that. So I think that's the end kind of this episode. If you want to hear more, I think next episode you're going to hear Sarah's first stories. That's going to be fun. I feel like I know the story, but I can't wait to hear it again.
I have this experience with you just now. I mean, I knew your birth story. You were texting me when you were in the hospital the whole time. I remember, because you want to know what? I was shopping for my hospital bag things because you were telling me I didn't use this. Oh, I used this. Oh, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm making my list. My hand is I was this. Or okay, but so no. I remember having that conversation with you.
And then I was like, because your shower wasn't until much later anyway.
Right. So I was, but then you went silent. And I'm like, oh, okay, so she's probably giving birth now. I was so excited. I was like, okay, I can't wait. And then I didn't hear anything from you for a long time. I'm like, okay, she had a baby. She's fine with a baby. Everything went great. Oh, so happy for her. And then, I got in touch with you. You went and I was saying, I was like, so had a C-section. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah,
I have goosebumps.
Yeah, the business guys with
bones. I was just like, oh my God. Like I have a chill thinking about like when you reached out to me after you had Nicholas, and yeah, it's just hearing it again. It feels now that we're more recovered after having our baby, sort of, I guess. Well, I don't, in the sense of like we're not in the newborn trenches, we're
not wearing diapers. I can go to the bathroom like a nuts person.
So yeah, we're currently not pregnant. We're lame. We're getting our pink back, a little bit of pink, yeah, and it's fine. It's so interesting to hear it again from this side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I can't wait to hear yours. So yeah, you will next episode hear Sarah's story. Stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Bye.